On October 8, 2012, a 17-year-old teen who was driving at 110 miles an hour crashed into a tree at 3:35 a.m. The crash killed the 4 passengers in the car. However, the driver survived with only minor injuries. The driver and the passengers were under the influence of marijuana at the time of the crash. This brings me to my knowledge question. To what extent should authority dictate personal freedoms? First, I must define what is a personal freedom. Freedom is the power and right to act, speak, and think without restraint. So, I would define personal freedom as the freedom for an individual to act as they wish. This means that a person should be able to act in ways that may not be socially acceptable. However, since it is the individual's choice, they should be allowed to act on their own beliefs. In regard to the legalization of marijuana, many people feel that smoking is a personal choice that the individual should be allowed to make. Yet others feel that smoking is a detriment to society. Their argument is, if something has the potential to cause harm to others, it shouldn't be allowed. Woody Harrelson, an American actor, was quoted as saying, "I do smoke, but I don't go through all of this trouble just because I want to make my drug of choice legal. It's about personal freedom." One of the issues that is brought up in the debate of personal freedom and the legalization of marijuana is the difference between medical marijuana and recreational marijuana. Medical marijuana is used by AIDS patients, cancer patients, and other patients with chronic illnesses to relieve pain, while recreational marijuana is typically thought to be used by fun-loving people that just want to get stoned. People allow their emotions to get in the way of reason when they're afraid that the use of marijuana is going to adversely affect them. This can be seen during the 1920s of alcohol prohibition. In the end, prohibition did not work. Instead, it led to more dangerous use of alcohol because moonshine is more likely to cause negative effects such as permanent blindness, since moonshine is likely to contain impurities that would not be present in legal alcohol. This can be applied today to marijuana because if countries were to legalize marijuana, it would force a safety control of the substance enforced by the government. In addition, culture plays a large role in the legalization of not only marijuana but other drugs as well. Native Americans have used what many people perceive to be illegal substances for hundreds of years for religious rituals. People in the United States perceive the illegal substances to be dangerous to not only the user, but also to those that are in proximity to the user. However, the Native Americans have grown accustomed to the use of the drugs, and they play a large role in their culture. Culture influences the perception of the individual. Therefore, the individual must be mindful of other people's actions. Presently, in the United States, the legalization of marijuana is different in each state. Even though the states all fall under one government, the individual states have differing opinions on the issue. Medical marijuana is legal in 18 states, while recreational marijuana is legal in 2 states, Washington and Colorado. One reason for the wider acceptance of medical marijuana is that people believe it is wrong to withhold treatment to people in need. And although marijuana cannot cure AIDS or cancer, it can reduce the pain and suffering that such illnesses cause. The legalization of recreational marijuana is generally looked down upon because people fear that if it were to be legal, the United States would be overrun by a bunch of potheads. However, people often jump to conclusions in this situation. I look at this in comparison to alcohol. The majority of the population is not walking around drunk all day. Kids go to high school and college sober, and adults go to their jobs sober, even though technically it isn't illegal to drink during the daytime. In regards to marijuana, there are people that will smoke, but most people won't because they value their job or education or both. I, for one, would rather go to class to learn rather than go to class stoned because I want to go to college and be successful in everything I do. On occasion, success does come to people that are under the influence. However, this is the exception rather than the rule. For example, popular music artists like Wiz Khalifa and Snoop Dogg are well-known potheads that create very popular music. They exercise their right to free speech as well as the right to use marijuana with a medical marijuana card. This seems to enforce the argument that marijuana needs to be controlled more, since neither Wiz Khalifa nor Snoop Dogg have life-threatening diseases, and this simply encourages others to follow their lead. Some of the artists, like Snoop Dogg and Wiz Khalifa, emphasize the use of marijuana and alcohol in their songs, which glorifies the use of the substances. Here's a clip from a popular song by Wiz Khalifa and Snoop Dogg.
one word. So what, we get drunk, so what, we smoke weed, we're just having fun, we don't care who sees. So what, we go out, that's how it's supposed to be. Cause you know I'm high as fuck, young and wild and free.
Even though Wiz Khalifa and Snoop Dogg are exercising the right to free speech, famous people like these artists need to be careful of what they say and how they act, because young people look up to them and emulate their actions. However, should government control what is put on the radio? Probably not. This would be violating the First Amendment, which states people are entitled to freedom of speech. In other words, artists should try to censor themselves for the sake of society, and government should not have to do it for them. Going back to the question, if something has the potential to harm others, should it be allowed? There has been no documented deaths from the direct use of marijuana. However, this does not mean that there have been no deaths in result of the use of marijuana. This goes back to my real-world example. 4 18-year-old boys were killed because the driver of their car was under the influence of marijuana. The deaths were unnecessary, and the boys had their entire lives ahead of them before their unexpected deaths. So, is it justifiable to allow some to use marijuana, even though it could potentially harm others? Basing my argument on emotion, I would say no. Getting rid of some pain for some people does not justify the deaths of others, and since there will always be substance abuse, the use of marijuana should be banned altogether. However, taking reason into consideration, I would have to change my mind. People can die unexpectedly from many things, from car accidents to unexpected illness to even having a vending machine fall on top of you. This does not mean that I would outlaw all vending machines, though. Accidents happen, and no one can control everything. Banning marijuana will not get rid of the problem. It will still be used even if it is illegal, so why not allow people the freedom, while government benefits from the potential tax on recreational marijuana? Richard Nixon was quoted as saying, "Federal and state laws should be changed to no longer make it a crime to possess marijuana for private use." And now for the science of marijuana. Tetrahydrocannabinol, also known as THC, is the primary psychoactive cannabinoid in marijuana. A cannabinoid is a chemical compound that activates cannabinoid receptors in your brain, which are natural receptors. THC alters visual, auditory, and olfactory senses, causes fatigue, relaxation, appetite stimulation, and memory impairment. So, what does this mean in layman's terms? Well, marijuana affects what you see, hear, and smell. It causes you to feel tired or just extremely relaxed. It causes hunger, which is oftentimes referred to as the munchies, and it can cause some memory loss, which is never a good thing. Marijuana users are biased towards the use of marijuana because oftentimes they do not see the negative effects it has on other people, as well as the negative effects it has on themselves because they are impaired at the time of use. Marijuana is a popular drug that is used by people of all ages, ranging from teenagers to senior citizens. Marijuana is also known as weed, pot, dope, Mary Jane, herb, hash, blunt, grass, and ganja. It is a very hard drug to control, especially in states like California, where obtaining a medical marijuana card is not difficult as long as you are over 18 years old. This brings up the issue of age and personal freedoms. If marijuana were to be legalized for recreational use, it should be illegal for anyone under 18 to be able to obtain marijuana. Marijuana is fairly compared to alcohol, so I believe that weed needs to be controlled in a similar fashion in which alcohol is controlled. By this, I mean that it should be illegal for anyone over 18 to buy minors any marijuana. Also, driving under the influence of marijuana needs to be illegal because it is under these types of circumstances that accidents are more likely to happen, like the accident in which the 4 teenage boys in New York were killed. Freedom is very important in American life and tradition because that is what the United States was founded upon. Therefore, personal freedom should be allowed. This, however, is not unconditional. Personal freedom should be allowed and encouraged up to the point in which another person is not harmed by an individual's actions. Personal freedom supports individuality, but if it comes at the cost of harming another, authority needs to step in. Marijuana is not just a plant or flower. It's a drug and needs to be treated as such.
feeling like 2 a.m. summer night. I don't care, hand on the wheel, driving drunk, I'm doing my thing. Rolling the mid beside it now, living my life, cannot dream. I'ma do just what